Okay, so this is a continuation of our discussion in the properties of Laplace transform. So we are now in property number 5, the multiplication by power of t. So definition, if the Laplace of the function of t is equal to f of s, then the Laplace of t raised to n times the function of t is equal to negative 1 raised to n times the nth derivative of your f of s. So, or equal to negative 1 raised to n times f raised to n of s. So, let's try example number 1. F of t is equal to t cosine t. Number 1. F of t is equal to t cosine t. So, the first thing we should do is to identify what is the value of our n. So, our n is equal to 1 since yung exponent ng t natin is 1. And then, find the Laplace of your f of t. So, f of t natin is cosine t. So, this will be your f of t. So, let us find the Laplace of that function. The Laplace of cosine t is equal to, base from the table, that is s over s squared plus 1 since a is 1 naman dito. And then from here, this is our f of s. And from the definition, the Laplace of t raised to n times the function of t or f of t is equal to negative 1 raised to n times the nth derivative of your f of s. So, yung f of s natin is s over s squared plus 1 and our n is 1. So, we are going to get the first derivative of this function. So, this is equal to negative 1 raised to n is equal to 1. So, that is 1 times the derivative of s over s squared plus 1 over ds. So, we are going to get the derivative of this with respect to s. So, ang gagawin natin or ang susundin natin na formula will be the quotient rule. So, recall yung rules in derivation ninyo. The quotient rule, that is v du minus u dv over v squared. Okay, so mag-let u tayo. Let u be equal to s and then du be equal to ds. V equal to s squared plus 1. So, your dv will be equal to 2s. Okay. So, let us apply. Negative 1 raised to 1 is negative 1. So, that will be negative times, yan, v is 2s. V is s squared plus 1 times du, that is 1. Oh my God. This is wrong pala. The derivative of u with respect to s. But since u is equal to s, ds over ds is 1. So, our du is 1. And then minus u is s times dv is equal to 2s. And then over v quantity squared. So, this is our yung na-derive na function natin. Now, we simplify. This will be equal to negative times, that is s squared plus 1. And then negative s times 2s is 2s squared all over s squared plus 1 quantity squared. So, simplifying further, we have this is negative. Tapos, s squared minus 2s squared is negative s squared plus 1. And then, if we expand this one, this is s squared plus 1 squared. Hindi na natin i-expand. So, si negative dito, i-distribute natin dito sa numerator natin. So, this will be equal to s squared minus 1 over s squared plus 1 quantity squared. So this is our final answer for example number 1. Okay, so let's try example number 2. And f of t is equal to t squared cosine 4t. So let's try it. Example number 2 is equal to t squared cosine 4t. So first thing we should do is to identify Cn, which is 2, and A, which is 4. Tapos kunin natin yung Laplace transform of our f of t, which is c cosine 4t. This is from the format from the definition. So this is equal to cosine 4t is equal to s over s squared plus 16, since 4 squared is equal to 16. So ito, since n is equal to 2 natin, we have to apply double derivation. So this is equal to negative 1 raised to 2 times the derivative of s over s squared plus 16. Double pala. Double derivative of s over s squared plus 16. And negative 1 squared is equal to 1, so we just omit this and proceed to derivation. So, gawin ulit natin yung quotient rule and then let u be equal to s. So, our du with respect to s is 1, and then v is equal to s squared plus 16. dv with respect to x is equal, with respect to s, I should say, is equal to 2s. So, our new working equation will be the derivative of, i-derive natin to, this will be equal to v, that is s squared plus 16 times du is 1 minus u times dv is 2s over s squared plus 16 squared. Then simplifying, we have d over ds times s squared plus 16 minus 2s squared over s squared plus 16 quantity squared. So simplifying further, we have d over ds times, that is 16 minus s squared over s squared plus 16 quantity squared. So this time, ito naman ngayon yung i-derive natin. So let u be equal to 16 minus s squared. Our du with respect to x is negative 2s. Our v is s squared plus 16 squared. Quantity is squared. So our dv is equal to, our dv is 4, oh my gosh, sorry, this is 4s squared plus 64. Okay, so this will be equal to, follow yung uv minus v du over v squared. So our u is 16 minus s squared times d, so this will be, iba pala yun. This will be v du minus u dv over v squared. So our v is equal to s squared plus 16 quantity squared times du is negative 2s minus u is 16 minus s squared multiplied by your dv, that is 4s squared plus 64 over our v is s squared plus 16 quantity squared. So from there, pwede tayong mag-simplify. So this will be equal to s squared plus 16 squared minus times negative 2s minus 16 minus s squared times ito, pwede natin siyang ano ba yun, i-factor into, ilabas natin si s squared plus 16. So that is s squared plus 16 multiplied by 4s. Okay? Break down lang natin to into this one. Divided by s squared plus 16 quantity squared. Bakit natin siya finactor? Tap no, so that we can factor out si s squared plus 16 since common sa kanilang dalawa. So this will be equal to factoring out s squared plus 16. So this will be equal to so we factor out si s squared plus 16, and then matitira will be s squared plus 16 since naka-square siya. So yung isa lang yung nilabas natin, and then times negative 2s minus, this is dito so linabas natin yan, so natira will be 16 minus s squared times 4s. So this is 16 minus s squared times 4s over s squared plus 16 quantity squared. So we can cancel yung isang s squared plus 16 dito along with this one. So we will be left with s squared times negative 2s, that is negative 2s cube, and then 16 times negative 2s, that is negative 32s, and then 16 times 4s, that is 64s, times negative, that is negative 64s, and then negative s squared times 4s, that is negative 4x cube, times negative, that will be positive 4s cube, all over s squared plus 16. So from there, pwede na tayong mag-combine like terms, and that will be our final answer for example number 2. So negative 2s cubed plus 4s cubed is positive 2x cubed, and then negative 32s minus 64s, that will be equal to negative 96s, all over s squared plus 16. So this is our final answer for example number 2 in property number 5, multiplication by power of t. So meron pa tayong last example for this property. Ito, si f of t is equal to t times 3 sine 2t minus 2 cosine 2t. So let's try number 3, example number 3. That is f of t is equal to t t times 3 sine 2t minus 2 cosine 2t. So, una natin gagawin is distribute muna natin ito dito. So, this will be equal to, this will be equal to 3 3t sine 2t minus 2t cosine 2t. So, what we will do is to separately get the Laplace transform of these terms. So, Laplace of 3t cosine, hindi, wait lang. I-separate na rin natin yung constant niya, which is si 3, and then this will be equal to t sine 2t. Okay? And then minus 2 being the constant, and then the Laplace of t cosine 2t. Okay? So, separately natin silang kunin yung Laplace transform. So, both naman is n is equal to 1. Okay? So, first thing we should do is to get the Laplace transform of our f of t. So, the Laplace transform of sine 2t is equal to, from the table, that is 2 over s squared plus 4. Yung a natin will be equal to 2. And the Laplace of cosine 2t at a equal to 2 is equal to s over s squared plus 4. So, ito yung mga functions na kailangan nating i-derive to get the Laplace of this one. 3t sine 2t and 2t cosine 2t. Okay. So, paghiwalayin na lang natin, this will be at the Laplace of t sine 2t. Okay. So, gagawin natin is this will be 3 negative 1 raised to n is 1, times the derivative of 2 over s squared plus 4. First derivative lang yung kukunin natin. So, ang gagawin ulit natin is the quotient rule. Okay, so mag-let u tayo. Let u be equal to 2. So, your du is equal to, the derivative of a constant is 0. And then v is equal to s squared plus 4. Du with respect to x is equal to 2s. So, this will be equal to negative 1 raised to 1 is still negative 1 multiplied by 3. That will be negative 3 times v is s squared plus 4 times du is equal to 0 times 0 minus u is 2 times dv, this is dv sorry, dv is equal to 2s over s squared plus 4 quantity squared. So this will cancel kasi magiging 0 yan. So we will be left with negative 3 times negative 4s over s squared plus 4 quantity squared. And simplifying further, this will be equal to 12s over s squared plus 4 quantity squared. So this is the Laplace transform of our first term, si 3t sine 2t. Okay? And then at the Laplace transform of, inaka-isolate na si 2 ha. This will be equal to t cosine 2t. Okay. So, this will be equal to 2 times negative 1 raised to 1 since n naman natin is 1. And then, the first derivative of cosine 2t is s over s squared plus 4. Okay. So, let u be equal to s, du be equal to 1, and v is equal to s squared plus 4, dv is equal to 2s. So, this will be equal to 2 times negative 1, that is negative 2, kasi negative 1 raised to 1 is negative 1. So, this will be negative 2 times, okay, apply na natin yung quotient rule. This is v s squared plus 4 times du is 1 minus u times dv over v squared. Okay? So, this will be equal to negative 2 times s squared plus 4 minus 4s squared. Tama? Yes, tama. Over s squared plus 4 quantity squared. So, from there, mag-simplify pa tayo further. This will be equal to negative 2 times s squared minus 4s squared. That is negative 2s squared plus 4 over s squared plus 4 quantity squared. So, i-distribute na natin si negative 2 or i-multiply natin si negative 2 into this equation. So, this will be equal to negative 2 times negative 2s squared is positive 4s squared. That is positive 4s squared minus 8. Kasi negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. And then, copy yung denominator natin. Okay. So, we have this 2, this one, and this one. Pagsamahin na natin siya since ito naman yung original na equation natin. So, maglagay tayo ng separator dito. So, this will be equal to the Laplace of this function is equal to 12s over s squared plus 4 quantity squared plus 4s squared minus 8 over s squared plus 4 quantity squared. This should not be plus pala. This is negative. ito, this is our function na working equation na sinasolve natin. So this will be equal to getting the LCD, that is s squared plus 4 quantity raised to 2. So this is equal to 12s, since s squared plus 4 quantity squared divided by this one is equal to 1. Multiplied by the numerator is still 12s, minus this one divided by this one is negative, I'm sorry, that is 1 multiplied by this term. So this is equal to 4s squared and then minus 8. No, it is not minus. Idiretso na natin. So this one divided by this one is equal to 1 times negative, that is negative 1 times negative 8, that will be positive 8. Okay? So simplifying further, this will be equal to I'll just correct this one. This should not be 4. This should be 2. Wait lang. This should be 2. This okay, this should be 2 kasi s times negative 2, negative s times 2s pa lang yan. Pala yan, hindi 2s times 2s. So this will be equal to negative 2s, and then this is equal to negative s squared kasi s squared minus 2s squared is um negative s squared. Okay. So, tatanggalin natin yung 4 dito. This is s squared minus 8. Yes, tama yan. Tapos dito, tanggalin natin yung 4. That is s squared minus 8. So, this will be equal to s squared. Okay. So, tama na yan. Yes, I guess tama na yan. And then, pwede namang ito na yung final answer ninyo. However, i-arrange na lang natin to into the quadratic equation. Okay, so this will be equal to negative s squared plus 12s plus 8. Okay, over s squared plus 4 quantity squared. So this is our final answer for example number 3. This can be our final answer or this one. Okay, but I prefer this one. So that ends our discussion in the fifth property of Laplace transform, that is the multiplication by power of t.